The Prison of Novaya Kletka. In the winter of 1987, investigative journalist Dmitri Arkanov received an anonymous letter sealed with red wax. Inside was just one sentence. If you want to find out what's really happening in Siberia, visit Novaya Kletka before it's too late. No one else using that name knew the place. Dmitri thought it was a rural legend, but the letter came with precise coordinates. After days of hesitation and fascinated by the mystery, he headed east, passing through abandoned towns and frozen trails until he spotted on the horizon a huge stone building surrounded by rusty towers. The prison seemed alive, as if it breathed in the shadows of the blizzard. As he approached, Dmitri noticed deep scratch marks on the metal gates, as if something gigantic had tried to escape. The wind passed through the cracks and produced a sound reminiscent of long, distorted cries. An old guard, almost as pale as snow, opened a small side gate. Without asking who Dmitri was, he simply said, "You came too late, or too early." It was impossible to tell if that was a warning or a threat. The director of Novaya Kletka, Viktor Mikhailov, had eyes as cold as the frozen mud of the region's swamps. He walked stiffly, like someone accustomed to commanding shadows. "This prison isn't open to visitors," he said, "but since you've come this far, perhaps your presence would be useful." He handed over an old badge and led Dmitri through the dark corridors. The lights flickered, as if struggling to maintain their sanity. The journalist felt the weight of something invisible watching his every step. The underground wing, according to the director, had been closed in the 1960s. Irreparable prisoners were sent there. Voices echoed behind the walls like whispers of people who had died long ago. The floor was still stained with dark, dry marks. Dmitri touched the wall and felt it pulse, like a weak heart beating under stone. "Don't touch anything," Victor warned, too late. The lights went out for a few seconds. A low sound, similar to multiple breathing, emerged from the darkness. In the empty cafeteria, Dmitri met Irina, the nurse. She seemed nervous, constantly glancing at the cameras. Cameras that, she herself whispered, were never truly turned off, even when broken. "They haven't told you yet?" she said almost inaudibly. "Told you what?" Dmitri asked. "Here, prisoners don't die alone. The prison holds them." Before she could explain further, Victor appeared, and she immediately fell silent. In Wing 3, there was only one occupied cell. Inside, prisoner 428 stared at Dmitri with eyes as black as bottomless pits. "You also heard the call, journalist," he said without being introduced. "The prison wants you." Dmitri tried to laugh, but the man's voice was so firm it sounded more like a prophecy than a provocation. "What is that thing?" Dmitri asked. "It's not a thing," the prisoner replied. "It's an ancient hunger." Dmitri found hidden files in a locked drawer, reports detailing psychological experiments conducted in the 1940s. The goal was to create a living prison, capable of molding the minds of the inmates. The reports ended abruptly, all with the same sentence. "The structure has learned, and we don't need to teach anymore." As he read, the floor trembled slightly, as if the building had heard his name. As night fell, screams echoed through the prison. Cell doors began to open on their own. Cameras spun without power. Chains vibrated, walls pulsed, and the air grew heavier and heavier. Prisoner 428 was free. "Now you'll see," he said to Dmitri, approaching with a twisted smile. "The prison only shows its true face when it's hungry." From the corridor, liquid shadows climbed the walls like dark roots, swallowing everything in their path. Dmitri ran through the winding corridors, trying to avoid the shadows that now moved like snakes. Irina appeared unexpectedly, soaked in sweat and tears. "I know a way out," she shouted. They both ran to the outer warehouse, but the blizzard was so dense they could barely see a few meters ahead. Behind them, the prison seemed to tremble, like an angry animal. When they reached the open field, Dmitri looked back only to see towers bending and walls rearranging themselves into a larger, more monstrous, almost organic shape. The prison was moving. Days later, Dmitri was found delirious by the side of a road. There was no sign of Irina, nor of Novaya Kletka. When authorities followed the coordinates, they discovered a completely flat terrain, covered in virgin snow, as if no building had stood there for decades. But during his quietest nights, Dmitri swears he hears chains dragging and a distant wind whispering his name, and one detail haunts him to this day. His mailbox received another letter, no return address, just one sentence: "You escaped, but you are not free." After weeks in the hospital, Dmitri tried to persuade doctors that his experience wasn't a delusion. But the voices began to follow him even there in the hospital. Whispers coming from the ventilation ducts, muffled calls coming from the bathroom drain. One early morning, he woke up to a phrase repeated countless times: "Open the gate, open the gate, open the gate." When he got up to check the door to his room, it was ajar, and someone, or something, had left deep scratches on the inside. Back in Moscow, Dmitri began to notice a shadow following him. It wasn't a person, but a shapeless silhouette that seemed to move between lampposts, pass through cars, and distort with each flashing light. Things worsened when he saw the shadow of the former director Victor projected onto the subway wall, even though no one was there to cast it. The journalist understood. The prison wasn't just walking, it was infiltrating. In his mailbox, Dmitri found a cassette tape with Irina's name handwritten on it. He put it in his old recorder. The nurse's voice trembled. "If you're listening to this, I failed. The prison found me. It's everywhere. In the wires, in the walls, in the snow. It's carrying the prisoners inside it, absorbing everything. Dmitri, don't let it take you to..." The recording ended with a sudden scream, followed by a sound like metal bending. It was too much evidence to ignore. Dmitri decided to investigate on his own. During a sudden snowstorm, someone knocked on Dmitri's door. 3 slow knocks, 3 quick ones, 3 slow ones again. A rhythm he recognized, the code used by the guards of Novaya Kletka. When he opened the door, he found deep marks on the floor, as if dragged chains had scratched the concrete. And at the end of the corridor, a hanged figure swayed without any rope. It soon disappeared into the darkness. Dmitri sought out a retired KGB officer, Oleg Roskov, who supposedly knew about experimental structures from the Soviet era. Oleg hesitated but revealed, "Novaya Kletka wasn't just a prison. It was a neuropsychic conductor, a project to create a building that would absorb human behavior and learn to contain people." He looked Dmitri in the eye. "If she has awakened, nothing in this country can hide you from her. You are already part of her collection." The moment he said this, all the light bulbs in Oleg's house exploded at once. Dmitri found a sheet of paper in his files that had previously been blank, now covered in red lines. It looked like a map, but the map changed on its own, as if it were being updated in real time. The lines slowly converged on a central point. The address was his. Prison was approaching. Desperate, Dmitri tracked down records of former prison employees until he discovered that the only person still alive lived in the Russian countryside, former prison guard Elena Markov. Elena lived in a secluded cabin with windows boarded up and walls covered in ancient symbols. "The prison needs witnesses to exist," she said. "If no one knows about it, it weakens. But you spoke of it to the world. You fed it." Elena explained that the building always chose someone to become the beacon, someone to guide it to new victims. And this time, the chosen one was Dmitri. As they talked, the cabin floor trembled, slowly, like heavy footsteps coming from beneath the earth. Elena ran to grab an old weapon, but the sound of metal scraping wood came from all sides. The walls began to warp. The boards creaked as if being bitten. Outside, in the darkness of the forest, echoes of doors banging and chains dragging could be heard. "She found us," Elena murmured, pale. The prison advanced through the forest like a hungry animal. Dmitri and Elena fled to an abandoned Soviet-era facility. There, an old laboratory used in the original prison project was located. In the archives, Dmitri discovered something terrible. The building had a core, a living room, and it needed to be destroyed to stop it from continuing to grow. The living map in his hand began to move frantically, as if the prison itself were trying to confuse him, changing the core's location every second. "She knows we want to destroy her," Elena said. The concrete around them cracked. Before they could plan the attack on the core, Dmitri received another letter. No stamp, no return address. The same handwriting as the first one that brought him to all this. Inside was only a small mirror and a sentence. "Look at yourself. The core was never in the prison." When Dmitri brought the mirror close to his face, his vision darkened. For a moment, his pupils dilated abnormally, as if something were moving inside them. Elena took a step back, horrified. "Dmitri, she placed the core in you. That's why she follows you. You are her center now." The journalist felt the ground tremble, but this time, it wasn't the prison approaching. It was himself. He was changing, transforming. The prison was growing from him.